This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Ghostbusters Plasma Pack. Part of the Ghostbusters 40th anniversary. God, everything's got a 40th anniversary this year, doesn't it? We got She-Ra and Transformers. Anyway, this would be from the O-Ring figures that they did the Ecto-1 for like 6 months ago and decided to put out way after the fact, which is like one of the dumbest marketing decisions I think they could make. Like, why didn't you put the figures out at the same time as the Ecto-1? Just to add to that story a little bit, I had set the Ecto-1 aside, put it back in its box and set it aside specifically because I knew I was going to review these when they came out. I spent 3 days trying to figure out where I put it, especially since I started rearranging stuff. God, that annoyed me. Anyway, front of the box. The box is designed to kind of look like a VHS package, for those of you who don't know. VHS is what we had before DVDs, which we had before Blu-ray, and which we had before streaming. So there's that. On this side of the box, it just shows the Ghostbusters name and logo. Go Max on the side. On the top, it's just Ghostbusters Plasma Pack again. On this side, they attempted to make it look like a VHS tape, which, again, if you don't know, if you bought a VHS of Ghostbusters back in the 80s, the cassette side slid out the bottom, not the side. Generally, VHS tapes that you bought either had clamshells or bottom opens, not sides. The side opens were for recordable VHS tapes that you could get. Anyway, if we open up this box, we see on one side we've got some information, and on the other side we have the figures. 40 years ago, 4 heroes of the hereafter crossed the streams to save the world. Commemorate the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters with this limited edition 3.75-inch O-Ring action figure set. Okay, that wasn't really much information there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different languages. Oh, the artwork up here does look kind of cool though, but we see some product information. We see there's some figures inside. Ray and Winston in the cab. We got Ecto-Gagos, we've got the PKE meter, we've got the Ghost Trap, and of course the Proton Pack and Neutrino Wand. Our figures are of course Egon Spengler, Winston Zedmore, Ray Stantz, and Peter Venkman. I mean, the inside looks fine, but let's go ahead and open this sucker up. The Neutrino Wands are packed separately from everything else. I actually thought this would be the full backpack, but I guess not. So Winston was nice enough to volunteer to take off his backpack for us. And here it is, very hollow in the back, extremely hollow actually. They did put some paint apps on it though for the 4 little lights that would be back there, but that's it, not a whole lot. Now we can go ahead and see about attaching this, and there are of course no instructions because why would there be? So we just kind of slot that in like that. I'm a bit disappointed that it's this hard plastic for the tube. Well, not hard plastic, but it's a lot... I don't know, I just feel like this is going to break easily. Put that on his back. Looks like... Okay, so there's a little slot there, and the only place I can think of that they could attach to is that, right? Or is it this thing over here? There we go. Okay. So when you put that on the backpack, the Neutrino Wand, that's how it holds on there. Again, that's a lot of bending on that cord there, so I don't like that. But let's set that aside and take a look at our first Ghostbuster. We will do articulation on only one of them because that's the only... I mean, there's no real point in doing all of them. But let's go ahead and put his backpack together real quick too. Alright, so we are going to start with Peter Venkman. They do have his name on his chest piece, which actually pretty nicely done, considering. Alright, so these are based on the G.I. Joe O-Ring figures. The bodies are all the same on all of them pretty much, with the exception of Peter is the only one who has the pant leg all the way down to his boots. Just saying. Bill Murray getting his own special figure. Articulation wise, he just has a swivel joint for the head. You can kind of rock it, but I think that has more to do with it being loose. It does not really feel like he's got one of those, that kind of combo hinge ball joint that a lot of G.I. Joe figures had in the later line. So this is more like some of the early Joes where you could just spin the head back and forth. We've got articulation up and down and spin around. Surprisingly, the neutrino one doesn't really interfere with that. Also, if you notice, they did paint the pins in this. And the Ghostbuster logo looks pretty crisp and clean on the side too, so that's nice. We do have a hinge at the elbow, does the basic 90 degrees. I like how the elbow pad splits on there. 360 spin on the arm. Although there is kind of a point here where it gets a little stuck. No additional articulation in the wrist area. Again, it's an O-ring, so he can spin his waist all the way around. Boom. We can kick up, we can kick back. The O-ring part does allow us to do the splits. And we have a single hinge at the knee. Face sculpt here. For an O-ring figure, I think this is a really well done sculpt for the head. I mean, you can tell it's Peter Venkman. Although, I would say the resemblance to Bill Murray is kind of there. Like, I don't know if I would think that this was Peter Venkman if it was on a different body, basically. That's all I'm saying with that one. We'll grab Ray next. Put his proton pack together. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I am definitely not a fan of this, the plastic cabling that they're doing here. Oh, you know what? I got that in backwards. Did I do that on Winston too? Yeah, I did it on all three of them. I put the wand in, or the cord for the wand in backwards on all of them so far. We have Ray's stance. Again, the uniform information looks pretty good. The face sculpts, again, when you have the four Ghostbusters together, you know that this is Ray. But his appearance to Dan Aykroyd, minimum, probably wouldn't have guessed that this is Ray's stance if he was wearing a suit. Also, Ray is the one where we usually see wear the ecto goggles, so we'll talk about those real quick. Maybe. So, they don't look too bad. They're not highly detailed or anything, but, you know, we don't really expect that from this line. Probably more detailed, actually, though, than, like, our usual G.I. Joe kind of stuff when it comes to, like, the binoculars. And it fits over his head just fine. Let's go ahead and get Winston back here, and let's fix his backpack real quick while we're talking about it. Here we have Winston's Edmord. Again, you would definitely recognize the head sculpt as being Winston while he's in uniform. Maybe not quite so much when he was out of uniform. So he doesn't really resemble Ernie Hudson a whole lot, in my opinion. Again, like I said, with the other ones, they're in the Ghostbusters uniform. You know who they're supposed to be because of that. If we threw his head on a G.I. Joe figure, it would just be some random G.I. Joe character. I guess it's true with all of them, but let's fix Venkman's backpack real fast, too. Come to think of it, You know what? I haven't talked about the ghost trap because I feel like we didn't. Like, there's nobody the ghost trap stands out as being used by in the show or in the movie. But the ghost trap's actually fairly detailed considering the size of it. The wheels on the bottom don't actually work, but they're there. I'll give it to Peter. Actually, the figures stand up pretty well so far. Last but not least, we will have our Egon Spangler. Good Lord. As far as the head sculpt goes, to its resemblance of Harold Ramis, this may be the only one of the figures where I would recognize this as Harold Ramis' head on any other body. In fact, if we get a couple of Grunt G.I. Joe uniforms and swap out the heads, we've got the characters from Stripes. And Spangler's, his nameplate actually looks good too. I didn't even look at Winston's. Yeah. So they did a really good job at the deco on those. Egon's one we usually see with the PKE meter, so let's take a look at it. It's open, of course. There's no detailing on the screen at all, which not surprising, but a little disappointing. The handle's huge, though. Like, I feel like that handle could wreck the figure's hands. Probably pull some paint off. Although you can... Ah, crap on a cracker. You can't really get him to hold it in the proper position for using it and looking at it, because you don't have any of that wrist articulation, which is kind of a shame. Well, since we've got Ray with the goggles, Peter with the trap, and Egon with the PKE meter, let's go ahead and have Winston hold the proton thrower and see how well this works. I have a feeling not particularly good, to be honest. Again, and I think this is going to be because of the wrist articulation. Or lack of wrist articulation. Because it seems to me like there's only going to be a couple positions. Yeah, see, that looks about like the best we can do without... If we had some spin on the wrist at the very least, I think we could get him to hold it better than this. But now, you can't really aim it particularly well either. And again, that cord with its weird, being kind of like the harder plastic than, say, a tube, it looks really awkward too. So yeah, that's kind of disappointing. It's to be expected. I do think that even though the O-Ring figures from the 80s didn't have the wrist articulation, I think these would have been better off with that. However, I know the part we've all been waiting for. I did find my Ecto-1, so let's go ahead and load it up. I think we're do a cut here too, because... Oh, well, maybe we don't need to. First things first. We've got... Okay. Oh my God. So the proton packs do sort of clip into place. But thus far, every time the neutrino one has come loose. And so, like, in case there's this little slot down here, so that kind of sits on this a little bit, and then the little sides here kind of grip a bit. I think this could have been done a little bit better. So we got all 4 of the proton packs there. And immediately see the problem. The cabling on the thrower does not make it out. So if you look in there, everything is a huge mess. So that appears to be kind of a fail on that part. Believe me, I'm expecting to be disappointed in more of this. Let's remove the accessories here. We will put Winston in the driver's seat. We will put Ray in the passenger seat. Maybe. So we got those 2 in there like that. I don't see it. Ray looks like he's drunk. Because remember, theoretically, we should be able to fit 2 other figures on these 2 seats here, and this is where we had the issues previously. Which, yeah, I'm thinking that's still going to be an issue. One figure already. And that's it. Let's find out, can we actually get Egon in there? That's what we got so far. I'm not sure what the 2 of them are supposed to be doing in there. Egon's falling out the back already. But maybe. Let's try again. Maybe if we put Egon in first on the back part. See, that's how he fits. I hope to God, I swear, if this is how the 6-inch one works, I'm going to scream and be pissed. Because this is exactly the problem that we had when we tried to use the G.I. Joe figures. I did not really think the Ghostbuster ones would be designed any differently to make that any better. But no, you cannot fit all 4 of them in here and have it look good. At best, oh man, we can fit 3 guys in the front. And sort of fit 1 in the back. So this is basically how you fit all 4 figures in the Ecto-1, and that is an absolute huge disappointment. It's a shame because I really do like this. I think they did a pretty good job on the design. It's just, it's not big enough, basically, is the problem. And of course, as we went over previously just a moment ago, you know, if you've got the neutrino wand pegged onto there, and you go to slide this in, it gets caught. You can't even really do this either because you're still going to get the other ones caught if they're on there. So yeah, basically, the problems is this here is too heavy duty. You might have been able to get away with this if it was actually like a string instead. But yeah, every time you go to slide that in there, it just it doesn't work. So you can't fit all 4 Ghostbusters in properly unless the best you can do is get 3 in the front, 1 in the back, and even in the back, I mean, he's in an awkward position. I guess if you really wanted to, you could just toss him back there like that. And then it doesn't look like Ray and Winston are trying to cuddle. But there you go. While the figures look fine, I mean, they're good for the O-Ring figures. I think they look great. I do think that the lack of wrist articulation really affects the way they hold on to both the PKE meter and the neutrino wands. And they fit like absolute garbage in this car. They're fine in the front, as long as you only have 2 characters in there. It works okay for that. But this is generally the problem that you have with toy cars, because they're always trying to save money by doing less plastic here, so you don't actually get the depth of the seating as you should. Because, you know what? Nobody's car seat sits that low unless you're in a sports car. So unfortunately, while everything looks good by themselves, the Ecto-1's great on its own. The figures are great on their own. Combined together, you can get an okay look with the figures in the front, but nowhere else. So I guess if you really wanted to, you could display it with, let's say, Ray and Winston inside there. And then you can just have, like, Pete and Egon standing outside. That's about the best you can do with this one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Ghostbusters 4-pack of O-Ring figures and their use with the Ecto-1. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you'd like to hit that subscribe button, that'd be great. We've got like just over 2 weeks to hopefully hit that 500 mark. I'm starting to think it ain't going to happen, but hey, maybe it will. We're over 400. We just need another like 96 to go, I think. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.